This is a 2020 towable mini hoe from Harbor Freight. I've elected to put the 13 horsepower Predator motor on it, which has an electric starter. From one to the other, the bolt pattern was good. I did have a little problem. The shaft was sticking out an 1/8 inch farther on this motor, and had to grind the dogs down about a 1/16 an inch to give the, in my opinion, the crankshaft a little clearance to expand. About 10 thousandths, but it's close. Other than that, it's just a matter of building a battery tray and hooking the cables up to it. Suppose you could shim a pump out or something away from it, but nothing shimmed. I just ground some off of the coupling dogs and polished in the crankshaft a little bit, and got a little clearance between the pump and the crankshaft. You want to measure that before you tighten the bolts down. Don't possibly knock the back out of the pump or something, or damage it. And I expect to put a throttle cable on it eventually. I'll replace the mount the end of the cable. Through that hole and out the screw in it, and then clamp the cable there. And move the throttle up here to the control panel, and probably the starter switch too. That starter is hard to turn on. So I had to build a battery tray for it, and I just fastened it on with a piece of 1/4 inch plate to the reinforcing bracket. Another 1/4 inch plate built onto the machine, and just tacked on some 1/8 inch angle iron into a rectangular pattern. Little plastic battery tray had a drain hole in it, so I drilled a hole for that. And I'll probably have to put some holes here for J hooks. Hold the battery down. That'll look pretty good. Well, it's pretty hard to turn that to start. Also, some modifications there. Really need to move the seat forward, but what I'm working on now is place a store of the front legs, and this piece of 4 inch square pipe. Probably could use a 4 inch channel. It's 1/4 inch, and I'll be mounting it here. And letting them lay across this diamond plate. Now, that's a 4 inch square pipe bought. It's going to do it traditional way, and then thought, you know, why sit and try to force these legs through a square hole when you just have an open hole to lay them in? Heavy as things are, they are a finger getter, and them spikes, they'll talk to you if you run into them with your shin or any other body parts. do not play well with others. Anyway, so I just cut the top out of with a metal cutting bandsaw. Piece of 4-inch C-channel do the same thing, I suspect. The way I laid it out, I put the legs together and bring this cut up piece up against it. And enough room to weld it here, and enough clearance between this pin to get welded down through there. And then just make it match back here. Put a little shim back here so it's level with this quarter. And go from there. Now I just need to center this hole with a pin in that and start drilling. And something else I had to do was grind the welds off underneath of this, because they was sticking up on the other side enough to interfere with it where it wasn't sitting flush. This side looks better, but I'll have to grind the paint off down through here where it's going to be welded to. But it doesn't seem to be too bad. That's one of the legs mounted in its position when in storage. And all I had to do to put the holes in the proper place, I went ahead and welded this side. I haven't primered it yet. But it's pretty sick. I use a couple of 1/4-inch spacers to simulate this channel, the side of it, and I just took the pipe with the hole I was going to use. I marked how far this one was going to go in, and then run that channel up against it, and that's where it's going to be mounted. So I set it beside of it, get this mess out of the way, and put the edge of that channel to the end of this line right beside of it, and then took a yellow marking pin through this hole and then into the channel sitting beside of it. I had to spacer up the height of the channel right there with just a couple of 1/4-inch pieces. I just set this channel right beside that pipe with the holes in it, and then stuck a marking pin through the hole in the pipe and put a mark on this plate. Now I stuck it in the drill press and drilled through with a 3/8 bit and straight through and left a mark on this side, and then went ahead and drilled it on through. Then I finished off with cheap stepper bits. Worked pretty good. Surprisingly, they dug that 1/4-inch channel right out. And I had to take a carbide burr, kind of clean up the flash from the drill bit passing through, but in general, the holes lined up pretty good. And I've already partially completed this side, primered it up. Now I was going to put a bead across the front, decided not to. I figured the sides and this open end would be alright. And I was welding on that, covered that up with a piece of shielding so they didn't get weld splatter on it. but it should do pretty good. And that's what it looks like mounted. These shorter pins will work through this, and I had to trim some of the rubber off because I just want to stop there, and took a razor blade and a cut off wheel and just ground it out, stick it in there. Some up and down movement and up and down action down in the back. I suppose you could put a pad in the bottom here and take up some of it, but it's pretty heavy. It won't stay down back here. I'm definitely going to twist that 1/4 inch channel off of there. So if you got it picked up and you're ready to use it, you just have to take it apart. And you just slip the whole contraption out of there, or slide this arm off on the end, and pick this piece up and put it together. Also went to work on some uprights to store the wheels, and I used 1/4 inch plate for the base, and I cut the 2x2 square pipe off at a 15-degree angle or so to kind of get it away from the motor. It's actually tilted out just a little bit instead of straight up and down. And I want some more clearance for this pump, and I drilled holes in another 1/4 inch plate, and I'm using just standard bolts to go through, sandwich the plate onto this axle. They're both real close to this tube, so they shouldn't walk around any. Is that smoking hot or what? Looks pretty good. Although this one kind of looks like it slooped out farther, but it's some kind of illusion because of the pump, I suppose. And I got to hook battery cables up to the starter. Find a spot to ground it. And clamp these down. Look pretty good under there. I'm just using Ford Red from one of the implement stores. The uprights are painted black. The front one's going to be painted red to go with the diamond plate, I guess. Even though the arms are black. I just used 1/8 inch 7018 rods to attach that channel to the Outrigger Sports. And this will have to say 13 instead of 9 now. And eventually going to put a higher flow pump on it and some bigger supply lines. Make it go a little more zippier. And that seat's something else. Thinking about putting some triangles here for footrests on each side somewhere. Ain't no way to keep yourself held down. And maybe an armrest around these controls. Hour meter. I got the uprights mounted for the wheel storage. I cut them a slight angle and welded them to 1/4-inch plates. I just measured the size of the existing pipe on it and drilled 4 holes and 2 1/4-inch plates. Put self-locking nuts, washers on the other side. Doesn't seem like the tilted out part looks too bad, I guess. I also drilled a hole in the back for a drain. That way, if it happens to get water in it, you can raise the front up and let the water run out of the drains on the floor of it. I got the new battery sitting in there and started hooking the cables up. Not too bad. Still got to put the ground cable on one of the engine mount bolts or starter cap bolt, it doesn't matter. But I can set a leg in there if it's done using it or whatever. Yellow mark lines up with the opening of the channel. And I'll stick the leg in there. You can pin it either any time. It'll give you a more accurate hold against the flat. Put your pins in. It isn't going to get out of there. And I suppose that's what it'll look like. Not too bad. I think I'll paint them front plates red. See how the red looks. Might have to go with black, I don't know. Probably try the red. Match all the diamond plate. The black, I guess, looks good for the uprights with the motor. But them kind of could be black with the boom, but the boom's attached to the red, so I don't know. Not sure I like them uprights in the back, but it'll have to do. But it's not too big of a footprint sticking out here. The axles come out well past that. Anytime you're working on this, I recommend having a jack stand underneath the front of the bucket and underneath the tongue. If not, a whole center block or something somewhere, just to keep the thing stabilized. It's already filled up with oil. Haven't put any gas in it. I guess the starter will work on it. Yep, seems alright. Lean. Yeah, put the seat back on it. One of these days I'm going to take this seat and do something else with it. It looks pretty good, I guess. Now, if it's in too short there for the tailgate, shouldn't get into the wheels, I guess. You don't get out of hand with it. Motor's got a quart and a 1/16 quart in it, somewhere in that neighborhood. Well, the toolbox is already mounted, pretty good. Well, when you're ready to use it, take the wheels off and drop them in their holders. Undo your clips and pull your pin. This is the specially modified one. Pull the other pin and start sticking it in. Raise it up. Well, that'll do it. Downtown.